So Heather, in the last segment, you were basically going over a piece that you had written earlier in the week, and there's a lot going on, obviously, with impeachment. We're going to get to some of the specific details as the show progresses, because frankly, it's hard, I think, for a lot of people to sort of like sort this out. We're starting to get into the the realm where there's a lot of names and I think we're going to see in the coming weeks, now that the Democrats have voted to make the impeachment inquiry official, we now know sort of like not so much the timeline, but at least the sequencing on some level of what's going to happen. But before we get there, your point was that we hear in the cable television world, the conventional wisdom is that the Republicans are flailing around, and your argument is that, in fact, what they're doing is they're pursuing a specific strategy, and we both have questions as to the efficacy of that strategy, but that they're pursuing a specific strategy, and I would agree with you. I think I don't know what their other options are, but it is. It's definitely indicative, and that strategy is to completely make the impeachment hearings, to make it all about partisanship, and to make it all about just politics, and then also to sort of like follow that along to its natural progression, where it's a coup, right? It's and they call it that: fake emoluments, fake impeachment, a coup. We hear this over and over again, trying to undo the election from 2016, as opposed to, no, the election stands. The president, however, has abused his power, has engaged in bribery specifically, among other things that are impeachable offenses. I think you and I both agree that what we're going to see is him being impeached in the House and then not convicted in the Senate. I think what this is indicative of, and I don't know if it will be successful in motivating people to come out and vote. Like, I'm not sure. I know that this election is going to be about motivating each other's base and depressing the other person's base, right? I mean, that's really what this election, I think, is going to be about. It's all going to be based on negative partisanship on some level, and how effectively you can draw this distinction. I am of the mind that they had really no other choice in terms of what a strategy could be, that the strategy is also tied into the idea. You and I, when we first got involved in this type of opinion journalism / opinion activism, whatever you want to call it, in the era of the blogosphere, we, I think, often would track how a story migrated from the right-wing blogs, got picked up by Drudge sort of whitewashed it, laundered it, and then it got on into the mainstream news. And that was the game that the right wing played, trying to get these stories into the mainstream. In fact, we still saw this dynamic in 2016, right, where the New York Times paired up with Steve Bannon to basically do an expose based upon this right-wing book, Clinton Cash. And I think we have moved into a different era where instead of using the right wing as a launching pad, the right-wing media as a launching pad to get stuff into the mainstream media, that they don't even try anymore. That all it is that they basically feel like they have their own platform to provide a competing narrative. And that's what that is about. And I think that's consistent with your theory. I just don't know if 6 months out from being impeached in the Senate is going to be enough to drive those people. And I'm of the mind that as long as Donald Trump is in a position of trying to demonize the Democrats as opposed to depressing the vote of Democrats. Like, this is great terrain, I think, for the Democrats, insofar as that, them saying it's a coup and saying, Joe Biden, assuming Joe Biden is not the nominee, that Joe Biden was corrupt. All that stuff is irrelevant, it seems to me, for the Democrats, for the desire of Democrats to go out and vote come November of 2020. And so, I think it's fascinating to see how this is rolling out. I just don't know if the Republicans have many other options, because all of their talking points seem to have been obliterated over the past, 10 days or so.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, and what it would require would be to have a different person than Donald Trump be the president. I mean, if they wanted to have a different strategy than this, they would have to have someone, a person of a different character and personality than him.
Right.
Because you could theoretically, go do the, he, does the Rose Garden strategy, and he's working hard, and he doesn't talk about it, and they only all that takes a discipline that just doesn't exist in the White House, nor is it the way that he does it. And I think that honestly, that if they want to gin up this base of theirs, that what motivates those people is anger at the other side. I mean, and he speaks for them, and so this makes sense in a lot of ways. It makes sense for them, and and I agree with you. It's probably the only thing that makes sense considering the circumstances. But again, we're back, and you and I've talked about this a bunch. That this is going to be an election that really is the battle of the two bases. I mean, I don't think that you're right. This is unfolding in sort of two parallel, political universes, in which each side is sort of in its own, is in its own reality in many ways. Now, I believe that the mainstream of most of us who are opposed to are living in, more or less the real world. I mean, we're subject to our own biases and whatever, but we're not operating completely in this world of opposite facts like the other side is, and so that's where we are.
All right. Well, we got to take a quick break. Let's, when we come back in the next hour, let's talk about the things that have taken place this week. And let's talk about what I think is the most relevant thing that's going to come out of all of this impeachment. And it has less to do with the presidential election than it does with other elections in 2020. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Sam Seder, Ring of Fire Radio. I'll be right back. Heather will join me in the next hour.